Welcome back to Love Yourself Thin. I'm Dara Thomason, and we're 1 week into the New Year's, and I'm guessing you've already seen about 1,000 ads for new diets, new meal plans, and new fitness programs, all of them promising that this is the year everything's going to work. How every diet you've ever tried focused on what you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, calories, macros, portions, meal timing, food lists, download this app, do this thing. Here's what nobody tells you. That's not actually the problem you need to solve. Weight loss is a symptom. The food is just what's happening on the surface. There's something else entirely going on, and until you understand what that is, you're going to keep spinning your wheels. And honestly, I don't want you to waste another year of another failed diet that doesn't address the real issue. Today, we're going to talk about what you're really solving for, and I promise this is a missing piece that's going to make this year different. Are you ready? Let's go. Today, we're focusing on one of the pain points that I work with my clients on over and over. It's this idea that weight loss is a symptom. So let me explain this to you, because when I first heard this, it was very confusing to me. One day, my daughter was swinging on a swing. She was about 5 years old and she fell. She broke her arm, but I didn't realize she broke her arm. I just thought she fell and was really sad and it hurt. So we comforted her. We put some ice on it and we drove for about an hour and a half, 2 hours in the car. And she fell asleep. Then we went into a store and I said, "Hey, honey, can you hold this for me?" She tried to hold it and she said, "Mom, I can't do this." I kind of looked at her and she's like, "My doesn't work very well." I looked at her arm. I couldn't actually tell that it was broken, but I thought this is clearly not a good sign. I was able to take her to the emergency and she was able to get an x-ray, and sure enough, it was broken. But when she was in pain, if I didn't go and get the x-ray, I was dealing with the symptoms. She said it's painful. I gave her some ice. I could give her some Tylenol. We could raise it up so it could take off the pressure. I could give her some extra love. Those are just treating the symptoms. But the root problem of why she was having pain in the first place was because she broke her arm. Many of us have all of these challenges with how do we say no to somebody? We're afraid we're going to get rejected if we say no, or we're afraid that even if we lose weight, our family might reject us because we won't belong. What are the reasons why you keep turning to food? Even though every morning, especially this is like the beginning of the year, you say, okay, I'm going to be really good. I'm not going to overeat. So why do you? I have a client recently and she was doing really well. She was getting on a really good swing of things. She was losing 2 pounds a week consistently and feeling really good. And next thing she knows, after about 10 pounds, she finds herself in her kitchen. She just started eating all this food because in her brain, there was danger. There was a threat. She didn't feel safe. She was losing weight. She was feeling really good. When we dug into what was really happening, here's what we discovered. She was afraid that if she kept being successful, if she kept losing this weight, she would be too different and her family might reject her. She went back to the old ways of overeating, not because she lacked willpower, but because her survival brain was protecting her from something it perceived as dangerous. Being cast out from the tribe. We talk about this a lot, like the tribe. But we are wired to belong. If we didn't have the protection of that group, you'd be exiled into the wilderness. If you weren't there, you didn't have other people to protect you, you would die. This is what I mean when I say weight loss is a symptom. It's not really about the food. It's not about counting calories or tracking steps. It's about seeing what's happening in your brain. I've been doing a lot of work with my clients on compassion recently. And so I've been studying it a lot. I'm going to link this TED Talk in the show notes. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but Dr. Stephen Trzeciak talks about this in his research on compassion. It's a really interesting TED Talk, and I highly recommend you listen to it. He tells a story about a gunman who came to a dinner party. The man pointed a gun at a woman and her daughter and said, "Give me your money or I'm going to start shooting." No one had any money. They tried guilt. "What would your mother think?" He said, "I haven't got a mother." Now it's tense, so someone's going to get hurt. Then a woman tried something different. She said, "Hey, we're all celebrating. Why don't you sit down and share a glass of wine?" And just like that, everything changed. The man took the wine, put his gun in his pocket, asked for a hug, and eventually said, "I'm sorry," and walked out. What happened there? This woman met a fundamental need. She didn't know what need, but whatever it was, he wanted it more than money, and it was strong enough to deflect a bullet. Your overeating is not about the food. Your overeating is about an unmet need. Maybe it's safety, like my client who is afraid of rejection. Maybe it's comfort, soothing yourself when feelings become too big. Maybe it's connection, filling a void that feels unbearable. Maybe it's control, the one thing you can control when everything else feels chaotic. When you try to solve weight loss by just changing what you eat, you're dealing with the level of actions, not at the level of deep-seated needs. And when someone tries to stop you from the actions you're using to meet your needs, two things happen. You become the enemy, standing between you and what you need, and then you escalate. This is why diets fail. You become your own enemy. You try to stop yourself from eating, and you escalate. The alternative is to bypass the actions and go straight to the needs. To look at yourself and say, "I'm not an opponent that needs to be stopped. I'm a person with needs that I need badly, and I'm afraid I'm going to fail." When you flip that switch, you stop attacking yourself. You start getting curious. What do I need right now? What is this overeating really about? Here's what's beautiful. When you can meet your fundamental needs directly, when you can give yourself safety, comfort, connection, or whatever you're actually hungry for, you don't need the food anymore. I want to share some personal experiences from myself and also from my clients to illustrate this. And this is the difficulty that I have as calling myself a weight loss coach. Because traditionally, a weight loss coach says, in order for you to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And it's true. You do actually have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. So the science says you have to stop eating as much physical food because your body can't use the stored fat, like on your bum or your hips, if you're constantly putting food in. Just like your freezer, do you have that problem where you have so much food in your freezer and you're like, we need to actually start using the food in the freezer. But no one really wants to use the food because you have to think ahead. You have to get the meat out and defrost it. It's just easier to use the stuff that's fresh in the fridge. When we think about weight loss science, I like to teach some of that as we go in this podcast. But if we have too much glycogen, which that's what happens when we eat food, it turns into glycogen and it runs through our bloodstream. That's a bunch of energy. If we have too much glycogen in our bloodstream, our body will never tap into the fat storage. Okay? So what is the difficulty of not eating the food? It's because if we don't tolerate feeling uncomfortable in our body and we constantly need to use food to mediate that feeling, then we're never going to tap into our stored fat and we're never going to lose weight. So I want to tell a story that happened to me near the beginning of my journey. This is a kind of a silly story, but it really surprised me. When I started with a life coach, she taught me about my thoughts and how my body is connected to my thoughts. We learned these tools that gave me structures so I could actually solve these problems that felt really difficult and overwhelming. Every time I went to a coaching call, I brought a problem to her I didn't think we could solve. And every single time, she would teach me a new tool and we could solve the problem. That's why I love being a life coach. So I went the 6 weeks and we worked on no sugar and flour. That was a huge learning curve for me. And I had a lot of great experiences well, they're great now, but they weren't great at the time, of really seeing how often I would go to the Wendy's drive-thru to get a Frosty. I had no idea how often I did that. I did the 6 weeks, no sugar and flour, all through summer vacation, road trips, everything. Then it was Christmas time. That was in July and August. Someone had brought us cookies. It was a typical Saturday morning. I have 5 kids. It's really important, especially at that time, that everyone cleans their room Saturday morning. And it wasn't always the most favorite activity in our house. You can imagine I am using my strategies. Okay, guys, let's clean our rooms. We can do this. As soon as we clean our rooms, we can go play basketball at the church or go swimming, or here's some sort of carrot that will encourage them. And we have lots of different personalities in our home. There was 1 or 2 kids that were not being as excited to clean their room. Imagine that. And there was at least 3 times that I grabbed a cookie and put it to my mouth. Didn't even know I was doing it. And then I would have the cookie in my mouth, about to eat the cookie. And I realized, I don't eat cookies unless I plan them 24 hours in advance. And I would take the cookie out of my mouth. Luckily, I had a bit into it and I put it down. But 3 times over, I subconsciously gravitated to that cookie to give me that extra energy to keep that, I'm going to be a good mom and I'm going to help my kids to clean their rooms. It really amazed me how often I subconsciously went to food ever since I was a little girl. I'll tell you another story that's kind of embarrassing. But my mom had a giant chunk of chocolate in her freezer because she would make chocolates at Christmas. It wasn't very good chocolate. It was like dark chocolate. When you're a little kid, you tend to not really like dark chocolate. The deep freeze was in the basement. And there would be times where I would be sad or I felt lonely. My mom had 5 kids in 6 years. And I would literally gnaw on that chocolate, even though it wasn't that great. It was a way for me to self-soothe. There was times after school where I would come home and I would just sit on the countertop with a spoon of peanut butter. And it was a way for me to just try to make myself feel better. I worked with Janine Roth on a retreat once in California, and she said that every time we go to food is an attempt to take care of ourselves. As we look at weight loss as a symptom, we turn to food as a way to try to take care of ourselves. We turn to food to not feel as good. I'm going to give another story. So I'm working with my coach, understanding about my hunger, and I have 5 kids involved in different sports and activities, and it was a lot to manage. My husband's work was very busy, and he wasn't really available to do the driving. And I was amazed at how often I would eat dinner and not even be present with myself when I was eating. My brain was in a completely different spot. My brain was like, okay, as soon as that dinner's done, then so-and-so is going to do the dishes, and then we got to do this, and then I have to get this. I was doing all the logistics of how I was going to get everyone to do everything that we needed to do. There were so many times where I would leave the table feeling really full, like my pants were really tight. And I thought, what's going on? And it's because I wasn't paying attention my satiety. I wasn't paying attention to how full I was. And the other thing that I was doing that I didn't even realize until I started thinking about my thinking was that I was feeling so stressed about having to do so many things that when you physically eat more, it's like it dampens how much you can feel. So just like if you had jars, you have different levels of liquid in those jars. The more liquid that's in a jar, if you ding it, it's going to sound different than a jar that has less liquid. So it's the same concept. As I share these examples, it was surprising to me how often I use food as a scapegoat, how often I use food to numb my feelings. I didn't really know how to problem solve very well. It wasn't modeled to me growing up. I don't blame my mom. My parents did the best they could with what they had. The more that I understand what's really going on in my brain and body, I am able to be proactive and help myself. This is what I do with my clients because I have this whole toolkit that says, hey, you're not broken. It's not that you're not smart enough. You just don't have the tools to build. About 9 years ago, I bought a long arm from a lady who ended up passing away of cancer. The deal was if I bought the long arm, I had to buy her whole quilt shop, which was quite an ordeal. She had a bunch of beautiful quilt tops. One of the things I decided to do was to quilt up these quilt tops and use them for donations, for quilt auctions. So I did one of these for my sister for her daughter was at a university in the States and they had this big auction and my sister was really excited to have me make this gorgeous quilt. Well, to quilt it was a beautiful quilt. And it was so interesting to me because I was trying to do the binding at my sister's house. But she didn't have all the quilt tools that I'm used to having. And it made it really challenging to get a great result. Her iron wasn't as good as my iron. Like I had to kind of improvise with some things. And I thought, oh man, it's so much easier to do this job if I have the right tools. I think about how so many of you, myself and my past self, I didn't have all these emotional tools, this understanding and knowledge. Now that I have it, I've been able to keep this weight off all through perimenopause and menopause because I use these tools every single day. And the ladies inside my program are doing the same. In the month of January, we are working on the 90-day program, which is the first 30 days is the 5 pillars of permanent weight loss. And every single day, you will get a video explaining the fundamental tool for permanent weight loss. It's a 5 to 7 minute video. I'm doing like little tiny steps and I'm helping you build this foundation. If you listen to the podcast on January 1st, I go through all 5 pillars in pretty good detail. And this will give you that foundation. And then you can even have office hours with me where you can bring any question that you have. We're going to take the complication, the stress, all of that out of weight loss so that you can truly address the symptoms just like I did. Like when I was stressed, I ate the cookies. Oh, I don't need to eat the cookies. I just need to deal with the stress. I overate because I was not wanting to feel as much emotion because I had so many things that were like weighing on me. So I didn't want to feel so much. Oh, I can just feel my feelings. I don't have to overeat. I don't have to do that to myself. So as I share these examples, I want you to think about in your life, if you can relate to that and you can see why an app that's going to track your calories or an app that is going to give you these special numbers, it's not going to help you because so much of what you're doing is subconscious. When you understand what's really going on, that's when you can create permanent weight loss. And that's what I want to do for you. So if you're ready to stop treating the symptom and start solving the real problem, join me in Love Yourself Thin. This is not another meal plan. This is about understanding what's really going on so that you can create permanent transformation. You get lifetime access to tools that work on your brain and connect to your body. No more fighting yourself, just real lasting change. What are you waiting for? If you know what you should do, but you can't figure out why you keep falling short, it's the dilemma, isn't it? You have all the knowledge, you know the steps, but something keeps you from following through. That's exactly what we resolve in Love Yourself Thin, my lifetime membership for quilters and creatives, because you don't have a knowledge problem, you have a thinking problem, and that's what we're here to solve. When you join Love Yourself Thin, you get lifetime access to the tools to help you understand why you do what you do, so you can finally create permanent weight loss. No more frustration, no more wondering what's wrong with you, just real transformation from the inside out. You can learn more and join at www.darathomason.com. This is where the real work happens. Can't wait to see you there.